Hey, there we are. All right, everybody. Hey, happy Friday. This is the Homefront Live. I am your host, Reed Galen. It is 1:30 in the East. It is 10:30 in the West. And once again, I am joined for a conversation about rules for dealing with autocrats with my dear old friend, Trygve Olson. Trygve, welcome.
Thanks, Reed. I apologize to
And
people. I came straight from the gym, Reed, and I look like it. I just realized.
no one believes that. No one believes that for a second. And as always, DC insider, reporter extraordinaire, and owner over at 24-Sec, Tom Lobianco. Tom, welcome back.
I did not come straight from the gym.
Also, well, people believe that, but that's neither here nor there. Okay. All right, guys. Hey, we'll be the Joe Rogan of the left before you know it.
That's right,
all
baby.
right, guys. Today we are talking about rule number 4, Trygve. And this rule is the past represents, authoritarians must live in a truth-free present. The past represents truths about the big lies and fear the illiberal forces use. The future for autocratic forces only matters for maintaining power at that moment. They only care about gaining and maintaining power. Trig, break it down for us.
Yeah, I mean, it basically is just the reality is, and it's one of the things that's confounding to people early in the process, is they have to understand that autocratic actors, for example, if they compromise, right, if they back off, they're not actually doing a win-win compromise. It's strategic to buy time because everything is seen through the objective of maintaining power and a strategy of demonstrating inevitability and invincibility. So one of the things that you see is, and I was asked this by somebody recently, is Putin going to negotiate? Putin will negotiate if Putin thinks that it's in his best interest for staying in power and achieving what he's trying to achieve. If he doesn't think that's in his best interest, he won't. But he's not there when you're dealing with in a zero-sum game where one side has to lose for the other side to win. There is no win-win of compromise, and hence the truth goes out the door, and they're going to say or do whatever they have to in the moment to survive. And you're seeing that to a degree in this royal rumble between Elon and Trump.
Yeah, well, Tom, that's one thing. I was talking to a friend of mine earlier, and he said, "What if Elon drops a bomb on Trump about something nobody knew?" And I go, "What else could the guy possibly do or say, right, at this point to scare anybody off or to change their mind?" As I heard another podcaster talk about, cult leaders, right? Cult leaders lie to their people all the time. Oh, Tom, the end of the world's coming Tuesday. Oh, no, it's not. Now it's coming next month, right? Like this is not something new. And Trump is almost 80 years old. I'm not sure he's ever told the truth in his whole life.
Yeah, right. It's, what's it when the Elon Musk, the richest man in the world, who is his own nation state, he exists as a global power unto himself. All right. If it's not going to be the U.S. putting him on Mars, it might be Russia. Okay.
Right.
He might take his whatever, what was it, the Grand Wizard, the Grand Dragon, whatever that cluck's name that he had for it, that space shuttle that he uses, he was going to take away. Maybe we'll take it to Russia. All right. When he said he's going to drop the Epstein file, it's like, okay. Like sorry, who gives a shit? Really? Like we already got photos of Trump with Epstein. All right. What a real bomb would be him revealing that Trump loves undocumented workers, and if this is all like a false flag operation to bring more Venezuelan refugees to the United States. All right, that would be a bomb. With Epstein, no, nothing. All right, it's just a distraction. And of course, 24 hours later, they're like, "Oh yeah, everything's good, man. Like, we're going to talk, definitely." Like, "Oh no, I'm not going to cancel contracts." Like, how predictable was that? Yeah,
Right. Well, you got to get stuff to space, I guess. You got to get satellites to space. Trygve. So let's just stay on this, not because not because I particularly care about the fight between Elon and Trump, because I think it's the biggest distraction of big distractions we've had, but because it's, brought up something else that I think is a little bit concerning, which is that Musk has hinted and intimated, and in some cases said, maybe the assassination attempt last summer was a fraud. Maybe, there was fraud at work in the election. And now what I have seen from several people online who frankly should know better is, see, we told you, or maybe it was rigged all along. I'm not going anywhere near the idea that like the false flag operation to shoot this guy in the ear or whatever. Like, I think that was a miss by local law enforcement and the Secret Service. And unfortunately, I think that Donald Trump won fair and square. So like, this is also how these lies can start to mix up otherwise reasonable people into beliefs that they hold dear because it's the only thing that can explain the world.
Well, I mean, if you look at the people who've glammed onto that, quite frankly, and having just been on the wrong end of that because I made the point that Ronald Reagan's Shining City on a Hill wasn't partisan. And in fact, in my Substack post, I encouraged one of the three things, people to watch Kennedy's inaugural speech, Reagan's farewell speech, John McCain's concession speech, and Barack Obama's eulogy for John McCain. And somehow I ended up on the wrong side of the AOC left on Substack, on Blue Sky. And I have crazy people suggesting that I was expressing toxic masculinity and I don't ever unload the dishwasher at my house, which is really funny, actually. The people who wrap themselves in being, I don't know, wrap themselves in their wokeness, and then they're suggesting, without ever even knowing me, that I'm like a bad husband and don't unload the dishwasher. But this is the thing. It's classic. They're handing battering rams to these people who are now escalating that, right? Because what they don't want to admit, those are the people that are glamming out. What they don't want to admit is that 77 million people voted for Donald Trump, and they're the minority. And whose bidding are they doing?
Home. And millions more stayed home.
And most of the ones who stayed home were their people.
Yeah.
Right. And so to that degree, those people that were attacking me, what I wanted to say to them, and there's some lady named Millie. I think I'm going to do a post on her. I am kind of liking that I have a Substack and I don't give a fuck, because I think I'm going to use Millie as an example of, and I said that to her. I finally wrote to her and said, you know what, Millie, you should probably subscribe to my Substack, because I'm going to use you as an example from my work around the world on political extremism after 9/11.
Awesome.
Yeah. So, well, she said only her friends get to call her Millie. So I probably follow up asking her whether I should refer to her as Mildred or Millie. But
why is she calling herself that on the internet then?
I don't know. I have no idea. But what I think here is the Elon Donald thing is, I said this on Truthy's podcast yesterday. Here's the thing about the game we're in. When Elon was attacking Trump and has been raising some of these things, the utility in that for pro-democracy people is that it creates a dissidence that you can ask your MAGA people, your neighbor down the street, Reed, who's probably conflicted on this. What's going on with this? That's the question you need to be asking. And you need to ask it genuinely. Don't fucking lecture them. It's not about you. It's about them. Pose the question to them and use it. What is going on with Elon and Trump? Get them thinking. Have some faith in your fellow humans. That's the thing about the MAGAs and the far left. They have no faith in their fellow man. But I'll tell you what I learned when my mom was dying of Alzheimer's and I had to go back to River Falls every week for an entire summer. And you remember this, Reed? It was awful. Like it got so bad with my sister that I was spending the days with my mom. And I had people who had attacked me on social media from the left and the right, who they were the people bringing me casseroles, being like, I'm so sorry about your mom. Like, right? See people as humans. Because we've gotten away from that. And it's not just on social media. I mean, and so ask the question. Don't make it about you. Make it about them and ask the question.
Well, but Tom, I mean, your whole business is asking questions. Curiosity matters. Because I used to not. I love talking like in forums like this. I love talking into microphones. I love talking to big crowds. But I was never really good at the sort of small talk and chat. Chit chat.
Yeah.
And finally, my wife said, just ask people questions. There's nothing that people love more than talking about themselves. And you know what?
Yeah.
It's so simple that I feel silly not to have known it. But if you ask people questions, they will happily answer them. Then they will probably start to ask you questions.
Yeah.
And before you know it, and you don't, the first question out of your mouth not have to be, who did you vote for in November? Right.
Yeah, right.
Because that's a weird question to ask somebody off the bat anyway.
Or what do you think about climate change? Or what's your position on abortion? Or don't lead with that. Try and find out people's stories. Be curious.
Yes, as Corey Emberson, hi Corey, just said, be curious, not judgmental. The great Ted Lasso. I agree. Tom, I'm sorry, I didn't let you finish.
Yes, sir, absolutely. I mean, I love this is because we're helping to lead the way here, presenting. All right, how do we do this? Right, what are the mechanics of this? I remember when it was actually about 2 years ago now. I was in Milwaukee for the first Republican debate of that primary, which you can argue how much of a primary that was, given as the one major candidate refused to participate in the primary. And I was sitting at this hotel bar. It was a Holiday Inn, and just hanging out. And there were a couple they're working like a natural gas pipeline, kind of like pipe workers or something. All right. And people ask me what I do, and I'm like, I'm a reporter. And invariably it gets to this, right? So it always gets to this. I was hanging out, fine. I have an expense account, so which was very nice, and it's a Holiday Inn in Milwaukee. So I bought everything and it kept it under $150, easy. And as we were talking about it, one guy, one dude's pretty hardcore MAGA, all right, and he's got picked the crazy shit talking points that were floating around at that moment. Jeffrey Epstein, is living on an island with the feds, after January 6th.
With Elvis.
Exactly. Right. And you're a hologram and nothing's real, et cetera. I'm like, okay. All right. But his friend, he's like, yeah, man, dude, don't listen to him. All he fucking does is listen to Joe Rogan all day. And I was like, yeah, all right, man. So it's like, they're doing the same job. They all have to hang out every day. Right. So it's like, and I feel like that is something for, when I have Democrats ask me about this stuff, right? People have been, professional Democrats, and they're like, well, we need to have like a Joe Rogan for ourselves. Arguably you have it right here. This is very high quality, high information, Roganizing. I think you don't, because you just go out and talk to people, go out and, Trygve said, I mean, why it's so great that we have Trig here is because, Trig was on the ground in these old Soviet countries, all right, after the fall, all right. And, Trig writes at his Substack, which you guys should all go subscribe to.
I put it in the chat.
Yes. Get on it. You can click it's TRIG-vee, TRYGVE. I have no idea what nationality that is.
That's Norwegian.
It's Norwegian. See, we got a Norwegian here, right? Of course, look at this. Writing about being on the ground with these folks in Poland, all right, where you get this raw energy coming in from people. It's you talking about. I think it was Mongolia was your recent post.
Yeah, Mongolia.
Yes, may I interrupt? Because I actually called Trygve earlier when I read this today, Tom, and I love a great line, right? And they say kill your darlings, and I'm glad Trygve didn't kill this one. He's talking about landing in Mongolia, right? And he said, quote, it was minus 45 degrees Fahrenheit. That kind of cold doesn't just bite, it rearranges your priorities. Like, that is a great line. Like, Trig, I don't know if it took you an hour to write it, or 5 seconds to write it. But
It
like
just
that is
came
a
out.
great friggin' line, right? And it's and everybody's been that cold, right? Where like it doesn't have to be -45, where you're just like, oh my God, oh my, what is happening to me, right? What is happening to me right now? And it
I just
listen,
thought
I've yeah,
I just thought this Wisconsin boy. The backstory on that is I wrote that line about, well, back in 2009, because I was asked to write this book that got used by USG and other places for training. It was really kind of a training manual. It was going to be published and wasn't. But I'd forgotten that I'd written that line. And the other line in that is, this Wisconsin boy thought he knew cold. And
right.
then that line. And I just remember seeing all the Mongolians on this beat up, crappy jet. I mean, that jet was like 30 years old. As soon as we landed in this cavern of snow in Ulaanbaatar, they were all making a dash while we were still taxiing for their coats. And I'm like, yeah, it can't be that cold. As soon as they opened that door, and then and then the thing is, they had no jetway, so we had to walk about
Of course
100
not.
yards. Yeah.
Well, you're only on the roof of the world. I'm not sure what you were expecting. All right, so but Tom, let me ask you this: in your professional life, you know, we have we become so inured to the lying that we just let it go? I just remember it was probably a couple of years ago now when the now executive order of the New York Times, or executive editor, excuse me, of the New York Times said that like they weren't going to fact check every single thing Donald Trump said, because that wasn't, that wasn't how they were going to see things. And you can do that, but of course it would triple the length of your articles because you'd have to put something after every sentence. But how does that affect, your work when you can talk to somebody and they're parroting what you know to be untrue?
I mean, number one, just in terms of engagement, is a good sense of getting where certain parts of the populace are, trying to understand things. But I don't, and frankly, this is a big part of the reason I'm not inside an old a traditional newsroom anymore while I'm doing my own thing. Is the reason that we traditionally would print what president said was because that indicated action. All right, it indicated that something would happen because of those words. All right, and I think that I'm not going to say it's legacy, mainstream media, or whatever. Professional reporters, all right. My colleagues, whether we're here on Substack or still at CNN or CBS or what have you, um, our job is still the same: is to provide information that's useful. And so, one of the things that I have been doing, and it's not a moral stance, although there certainly is some morals and ethics in it. It's a professional stance, which is that I just don't quote all of what Trump says, or Elon, for that matter, because they've proven themselves to be not trustworthy, not reliable. So I can't tell you, I couldn't tell you why. I don't know whether it's LSD or Special K or ecstasy or 2 scoops of ice cream every night. Like, I have no fucking idea why they're like that, but I just know that they're like that. Okay, so like I'm not gonna put that out there. Um, so I use it as like a compass. When I'm
Yeah,
out in the field, like listening to people, getting a sense of where they're getting their information from. I think
right.
that that's very helpful. Um, and then I love what Trig said about, like, let's ask, like, hey, what do you think about this? Like, hey, man, like, dude, you live in Joe Rogan world. Like, why is Musk going after Trump like this? All right, and engage that way, and engage their expertise, because it's again, it's like that is it's so human. All right, it's so to talk with people and be like, hey, what's up? Like, what's going on here, man? Like, I don't know about this. You know, I listen to NPR, 16 hours a day. All right. I don't know what's happening here. What is this? Tell me about it. Yeah. Like, yeah.
Um, no, I look, I think that's right, but I think the reason why Trygve, just to get back to where we started for a second, why do the autocratic movements utilize, um, this tactic? Why is it that they're always in motion? Why can they only talk about the present, not the future or the past?
Well, the past becomes problematic for them because because they have to say whatever they need to in the moment to survive. The past becomes really problematic for them in that they will have said things that have demonstrated themselves to be, it exposes the big lie on which they're built. The future is problematic because they don't really care about the future. All they care
And they
about
can't
is
control it.
continuing power in the moment, and they can't control it. And so they can only control it by in the moment expanding the fear and the perceptions of inevitability and invincibility on which their strategy is built, and a little bit of hope. So that really is why they do that. And what you see, there's a few tactical things that they do. One, a lot of times they say crazy shit because they want to see it's a loyalty test. They know it's crazy. It's like, Sean Spicer with the crowd size thing. Sean knew that that's ridiculous, but Trump was trying to see who would be loyal and repeat the crazy, right? They do that. They all do that. Baghdad Bob's the greatest example of that of all time in the Gulf War.
Right.
The other thing that a lot of times they'll do is, they'll try and throw out things that provide a little bit of hope, or one of their favorite, and Donald Trump uses this tactic all the time, is things that they know, and I think Elon does too, things that they know will trigger the far left to turn off the people in the middle that are really needed to create a large enough majority to take them down. And the example of that in the election was, Reed, we lived this in Wisconsin, was that what people refer to as the trans ads, which really weren't about trans as much as they were, these people are different. And
Right.
it was really about triggering the left to be saying things that for those people in the middle that were deciding the elections in places like Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Arizona, triggering them um, to be like, yeah, I'm just not sure given what the crazy that I'm hearing.
Well, I could make an argument, Trygve, that Harvard is playing that role right now, right?
I, I, so yes and no on the Harvard thing. There's an element of what Harvard is doing that I think is they're standing up, which is a good thing, and they should be applauded for that. I think though, and I was up I wasn't at Harvard, but some senior people in academia, and at another institution like that ilk, and I was making the point to them, what they really need to be doing is they need to be reaching out. They need to lead from behind. They need to be going to the University of Alabama, the University of Missouri, and Georgia, and those places, and helping empower them to lead, because they're being equally harmed by a lot of what's happening with grants and so forth. That's a much different thing. It's easy for Donald Trump to go out and bash Harvard. It's very hard for him to bash the University of Alabama.
Well, he could do it to me all day and I would not be offended, but I understand your broader point.
Right.
Yes. All right. So if we can turn off the politics for the last couple of minutes here, because we're going to lose Trig at the top of the hour. So we're going to make this a short one for Friday. Trygve, Aaron Rodgers, Green Bay Packer, all time.
Who is that?
He's a gentleman that enjoys the finer effects of ayahuasca. Is now going to be a Pittsburgh Steeler. Why? Why would he do that? Why? Actually, no. Why would the Rooneys do that? Why would they create this trouble for themselves? Why would they do that to the good people of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania?
I don't know. But here's what I do know. Brian Gutekunst, who's the GM of the Packers, he went to the University of Wisconsin lacrosse. And I talk about this on the Todd Albaugh show every week when we bring up the Packers. He built those city slickers from New York. That GM in New York's out of a job in part because Brian Gutekunst got 2 second-round draft picks and basically scammed Woody Johnson and the New York guys for Aaron Rodgers. So like he's
Well,
Pittsburgh's
couldn't
problem
happen to a
now.
nicer
It
bunch of
makes
people.
me sad. I'm going to tell you, it makes me sad on one level. I will say this. The truth of the matter is Pittsburgh is one of those teams. I went to the Super Bowl, actually with Chris Lasavita, when the Steelers played the Packers in 2010. And I like this. The Steeler fans are a lot like Packer fans. They're proud fans.
Yeah.
They're small town, like,
Right.
and so it makes me kind of sad that they're, you know, they are missing an important piece of advice that somebody gave me once, which is if you go to bed with a porn star, don't expect to wake up with Snow White.
Well, this was a family show. Now it's not. I prefer another one from an old friend of ours, Trygve, which is if you think that you can hang out with the tiger, don't be surprised when the tiger eats you. Right.
Yeah.
So
that's probably a more polite way of saying it.
Right. All right. So, Tom, give us a few words of wisdom here as we sign off on everybody's Friday.
I feel like this. My apologies to Wisconsin and then the Packers. All right, but I'm a Baltimore guy. All right, and I feel like this is like Trump versus Musk. All right, we turn out great either way. All right, so have at it, Pittsburgh. Sorry that's happening to you. All right.
You know what? I'll tell you this, Tom, as a Ravens fan, for you as a Ravens fan. So, and Reed knows this. So my daughters and I are trying to travel to see, we're using my frequent flyer miles and hotel points to travel to every city to see the Packers play. And so we're really getting a taste of all.
So cool.
Thanks. So we're getting a taste of all the stadiums, and M&I Bank Stadium it's a nice stadium, but it has the best food of any of the stadiums that we've been to because it is very, very much, they've done this really cool thing where they have local restaurants. So like the crab cakes and like everything is Baltimore restaurants. And like a lot of these stadiums, it's not that way. But Baltimore, it's a fantastic place to see a football game.
Thank you, sir.
Well,
you know what, man?
Tom, when the first time I went to a baseball game with my dad, when I lived in the DC area, we didn't have a team yet. So it was the Orioles versus the Tigers at Old Memorial Stadium.
Oh, wow.
And
nice.
And the food was not good.
No.
The food was not good.
And the neighborhood was worse.
And the neighborhood was worse, yes. But it was, Orioles Tigers, probably 1983. So, all right, before we let you go, Tom, tell us where we can find you.
24 Site News. I have a sign up there. I'm going to make one that's flipped so you can read it properly. Look at that. I printed it.
Maybe a touch bigger too, Tom. Just a touch bigger.
I think so. All right. Good. This marketing thing. Yeah.
It's a little small.
Yeah. A little small.
All right. All right. Trygve, how about you? Where can we find you?
Well, you can now find me at Searching for Hope on Substack, and you can find me on Twitter and Blue Sky. And if anybody wants to defend me from these knuckle nuts that are not reading my Substack post and attacking me because I had a picture of Ronald Reagan and made the point that America is a shining city was on a hill isn't partisan, I'm more than happy to have others take shots at these idiots. And I'm not even thin-skinned. I just think they're morons.
No, you are a Wisconsinite. All Wisconsinites have the skin of a badger. All right. As always, gang, you can find me at the home front here on Substack and over at YouTube and on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Trig, Tom, thanks again for joining me.
Hell yeah.
Guys, we will see y'all next week. Everybody, please have a happy, healthy, and safe weekend.
Hey, Reed, one last thing. So we have a listener who is a high school classmate of mine. One of your loyal listeners is a high school classmate of mine. I got to give him a shout out because I had not heard from them in ages. And all of a sudden I got a message who knew Substack had a chat from somebody who was like, I can't believe I heard you on Tom and Reed's show.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah. Well, awesome. Hello, whoever you are. And yeah, make sure to show up every week, guys. We will see you next week. Thanks again. Talk to you soon. Bye.
Peace.